we are close even to this.
Okay, Rushdie Abu Alouf in Gaza City for us. Rushdie, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe there. It is clearly a dangerous place to be tonight. Well, Jason Greenblatt was former President Donald Trump's special envoy for Middle East peace and the architect of his Israel peace plan. He joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us, Jason. Were you still in the White House? What would you be advising the Biden administration to do now?
Well, first of all, I would ask them to be more forceful in their condemnation of the Iran-funded Hamas terrorists, right? They are giving strong condemnation, but not strong enough because there's doubt in what they're saying. And I think your correspondent tried to address that in a very fair manner, I may say, and I hope he's safe and that he stays safe. Hamas has its infrastructure and its rocket launchers, etc., within civilian areas. And Israel, I'm sure, is doing the best that it possibly can to avoid civilian damage. However, it's virtually impossible for them to do it given how Hamas structures things. So I would say to the Biden administration, give 100% clear support to Israel. To do what it has to do to defend itself. This action was started by Hamas raining down rockets on Israel. For Hamas to now say, well, we don't want an all-out war, this is what happens when you fire rockets into civilian areas. If you lay down your weapons, I'm sure Israel would stop. But they keep escalating it. I myself was in a bomb shelter multiple times last night. I was in Israel. I came back to New Jersey this morning overnight. And having seen what's happening on the ground, it is a major, major escalation.
Mr. Greenblatt, during the Trump administration, there was some feeling that the Israeli-Palestinian issue was being put on the back burner, that the focus was on other issues in the Middle East. Is that a problem, that if the world leaves this issue to fester, the problem of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict doesn't go away, it's just that the world isn't paying attention to it and we're going to keep having flare-ups like this one?
There's really two answers to that question. First of all, it's not accurate to say that we were only focused on the Israeli-Arab conflict. We started focusing on the entire conflict, Israeli-Arab, Israeli-Palestinian, but it was clear that once again the Palestinians decided to back out of any form of good faith negotiation. They blame it on President Trump's historic decision regarding Jerusalem. But in the end, time and time again, the Palestinian leadership in Ramallah has failed to engage. So what we did is we separated out the two conflicts, and we were able to solve some of the Israeli-Arab conflict, which needs a lot more work. However, we took away the veto right from the Palestinians. However, we did want to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict if it was solvable. The second answer really is shown right now. Even if the Palestinian Authority, President Abbas, were willing to sit down and engage in good faith on the core issues, it won't matter while Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are in control and subjugating 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. Unless and until we stop this terrorism, there is no solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, even if the parties are sitting down together.
Jason, I want to take you back to one of your first answers. You said that it began with rockets raining down from Hamas. That's not strictly true, is it? The support that the Trump administration gave to Benjamin Netanyahu and the hardliners in the Israeli government meant that the settlement building in the West Bank advanced more quickly. One of the key disputes this time is over the eviction of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem, and they don't feel that they have proper redress in the Israeli courts. And while they're being treated unfairly like that, the frustrations will build, won't they? Doesn't America have to be a fairer arbiter between the tensions that there are in the region?
So there's two parts to your question. The first is you're conflating, and most people do, so I understand why you're doing that, these other issues with terrorism. I'm happy to have a discussion, a totally separate discussion, about the unrest that happened in Jerusalem, about Sheikh Jarrah, which you're talking about what you call settlements, what I call cities and neighborhoods. That discussion is completely separate from terrorism. Terrorism is terrorism. People are using it as an excuse. Oh, Hamas is excused. They could lob down rockets on Israel, on civilians, causing death and destruction just because of Sheikh Jarrah. That doesn't work. You have a discussion about terrorism, separate, full stop, nothing else. You want to have a separate discussion on Sheikh Jarrah? Israel has a court system, just like the United Kingdom. Imagine if I told you that your court system is no good and you have to change your decision. I have a right to be angry about any decision in your court system. I have the right to protest. I have the right to call it unfair and have an opinion. I don't have the right to cause unrest in your cities, and I certainly don't have the right to attack the United Kingdom if I disagree with a court decision. Israel is a real country with a real court system.
Okay, Jason Greenblatt, thank you very much for joining us. And as Jason said, we hope that all those on our team who are in Israel at the moment are staying safe. For those of you watching on BBC World News, we will be right back. Boris Johnson has announced a full independent public inquiry into the government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, which will start next spring. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, welcomed the inquiry, but he questioned